Hello, welcome to the Tanny Show. My guest on the show today started trading financial securities on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange when he was 15 years old and dropped out of high school at the age of 17 years to pursue an idea of automating the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange while pursuing a chartered accountancy professional qualification. He co-founded Chengetedzai Depository Company Limited that has securities deposits that have peaked at over 10 billion US dollars and trade settlements in excess of 5 billion US dollars. He has been featured in Forbes Africa 30 under 30 list among numerous other awards. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you.
It is an honor having you on the show, and I'm very excited.
Thank you,
to know
Tanaka.
your
It's a
story.
pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Awesome,
Yep.
awesome. So, Sam, tell us about yourself, your background, growing up, right into the start of your first business.
Okay, so I grew up in a modest family by societal standards. It was a low-income family. So I did not have a silver spoon in my mouth. I did not have an inheritance or any rich uncles in my circles. But that's obviously because of how the circumstances were. I always say my parents did the best they could under the circumstances they were. And my mother always used to say, she always used to hold these three fingers up and say, this is us. This should be you. And this should be your children. So she was basically illustrating that there must always be an upward trajectory with each generation, that the next generation must be better than us. And what we can do is to set you up and do the best we can for you to succeed. So they made sure we had a good education, despite the modest circumstances we lived in. We used to grow the food we used to eat, although we hated it. We'd grow maize, vegetables on our stand at home, and I think from a young age, our parents taught us that, if you want to eat, you have to work.
Okay.
So my mother had a policy that he who does not work does not eat, that she took from the Bible.
Yeah.
So if you didn't work, she would make sure you didn't eat, and she wouldn't be apologetic about it. But I guess she was preparing us for the real life world where if you don't work, you will not eat. So, I went to Louis Primary School, Government Primary School, Prince Edward Government High School. And it was, I think, when I was 15 years old, 14 years old, my dad introduced me to financial education literature. So I'd always been an enterprising person because, sometimes when you grow up in an environment where there's you want, to make money. And I think I always knew that in life I want to make money. Okay. Although I didn't understand the philosophies and principles around making money. So reading this financial literature enabled me to look at making money in a more structured way in terms of looking for a purpose and pursuing a purpose, solving people's problems, investing and starting businesses in a structured way. So from the age of 14, I read a couple of, financial literacy books. Okay. And then...
So this had nothing to do with what you were studying?
No, it had nothing to do with
studying. This was
studying.
just acquiring knowledge. So is this what your father was doing?
Yes, so my father gave me some books to read.
Okay.
And I just read these books, and it was just a matter of, read the books and apply the knowledge that you get from the books.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so in applying the knowledge I got from the books, I wrote a list of 20 business ideas I wanted to pursue because my mindset changed from making money to finding a problem to solve.
Okay.
In terms of starting a business. Then in terms of investment, there was either investment in the money market or in the stock market. So I chose the stock market for starters. And when I was 15 years old, I opened a brokerage account. I didn't have an ID yet, national ID yet. So I used my mother's ID to open a brokerage account, and I traded under her name. I actually started to make some trades, make some money. And I think from the time I was 15 years old, I barely ever asked, my parents for pocket money. So that's how, I started getting involved in, commerce and investing. Then I think when I was, 15, 16 years old, during my school holidays, so some of the things that I'd learned from this literature was that during your school holidays, instead of playing around, go somewhere and work for free.
Yeah.
Who will refuse someone that comes to give them free labor? So I was going to work for free. And in this case, there's an audit and accounting firm that I used to work at. So by the time I was 16, I had registered 5 companies. I knew how to do company secretarial work. I knew how to prepare financial statements. I knew how to audit organizations, because we mainly used to audit companies, clubs and societies, and some, rural district councils. So that, opened my eyes. And I think it's from that experience that I actually figured that I could pursue chartered accountancy without necessarily finishing my A levels, which is the last 2 years of high school.
Okay.
So after my O levels, I'd passed all my subjects. And then I said, look, I want to go and start a business. I'm going to drop out of high school. The ticket for dropping out of high school was that I told my parents, look, there's this option for me to start chartered accounting. I just need to be 16 years old. And when I'm a chartered accountant, who's going to ask me for my A-level certificate? And the answer was nobody.
Nobody.
So that got me out of, high school. And I also had to demonstrate to my parents that I'm continuing with my education, just in a different and unconventional way.
Angle.
Yeah. And then at the same time, it gave me the flexibility to start working on my business ideas.
Okay.
So I'll work by day, study by night.
Okay.
And I think it's in investing on the stock market from the time I was 15 years old that I saw the opportunity that this is a manual market. There's an opportunity to automate it. They've been talking about automation since I was 6 years old. And now I'm 17 and nothing has been done. So I'm going to try it. I'm either going to succeed. If I don't succeed, at least I'll learn something from the process, make some contacts, and I'll be wiser ultimately.
Wow, Sam, you are very young, but very passionate and driven. And I just want to ask, what do you think stirred that in you? Because I mean, at 14, I definitely wasn't thinking about the things you were thinking about. And, what gave you that drive? What pushed you? Was it the upbringing? Was it your parents? Did you have external support, mentorship? What other guidance did you have?
Okay.
So before you answer that, let's take a commercial break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Before we took our break, I just asked Sam what gave him the drive at such a young age on everything that he was interested in. So Sam, tell us, what made you so different from a typical 14-year-old?
So I think starting off, you said, sometimes they say necessity is the mother of invention. And, coming from humble beginnings, I knew that I had to work extra hard to succeed. I think my parents always used to say, look, it's not the environment that you are brought into life that matters, but it's what you decide to do with it. In as much as we were coming from humble beginnings, we excelled. All of us excelled in school and did better than, children that came from some of the better families. So they always said, look, it's up to you to work hard. If you work hard, you can achieve great things in life, and you must not be defined from where you come from, but you must be defined from where you're going. So for me, I think what also gave me focus is that I grew up in Glenlone, but in as much as I grew up in Glenlone, we lived in a 3-roomed wooden shack, right? The 7 of us. So yes, we're there, but we're there, but not there, if you get what I mean. And I would look at some of the children my age and what they spent their time doing. And it was not necessarily productive, what they did, because mostly teenagers are focusing on partying, girls, video games. Which when I thought about it in the context of the literature I was reading, there's no part that, thinking about girls, video games, or parties would get me to become the businessman and investor that I wanted to be. Yeah. So I think it was that, parental encouragement, also knowing where I came from, and also, being empowered to know that, I make the future that I want today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I give credit to your parents, Sam, because it's the upbringing, so it's what you also get at home, it's what you are taught, it's what you are told. And when it starts at such a young age, like it did for you, definitely it opens up your mind, when you have someone telling you, when you have someone giving you the content that you need, because your dad gave you the stuff you needed to study. So it's very enlightening. I mean, I'm learning a lot because I'm a parent. So I'm like, I have to start this. I have to start this as early as possible.
Absolutely.
Wow, it's very inspiring. What have you faced being young and successful? And how have you handled some of the challenges and major decisions? Because I mean, your success started pretty early. So what are some things you've had to face being young? And being in the business field?
Yeah, I think starting off as a young person, just last week I was talking, with my dad, and, he was reminding me of, my first trip out of Africa when I went to India in 2010. And the delegation I was traveling with, if you saw the pictures, you would have thought maybe this is just a secretary who carries around, who's there to carry around people's bags, because that's how young I was.
Or the son.
Yeah, or the son.
One of the delegates.
Exactly, because I was young enough to be the son of some of the people.
Wow.
And he was just reminding me that also in context of some of, the, positions I hold today. And so being young sometimes was a challenge in the sense that, sometimes people don't take you seriously because the stereotype is that most youth are not serious. And it's true. The majority of youth are not serious. So if you come across as being serious, there's always some skepticism. But I think the way to deal with that skepticism is to show that you're super focused and you actively work towards, what you're doing. You invest time in, acquiring information and knowledge, and you show your capacity to be able to look at life in terms of problems and finding solutions to those problems. So I think, having those developing those qualities, not having them because they had to be developed, helped me get along with a lot of these people that I interacted with, and it helped them to accept me. You see, from my time when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, I used to rub shoulders with senior executives, management of, big companies, CEOs, directors of financial institutions, that level of people. Those are the kinds of people I'll hang around with. I remember one day even playing golf with the managing director of a bank, when I was 20 years old. Playing a round of, 18 holes. It was the managing director of a bank and I think 2 of his senior managers. So, I also, learned that if you want to, there's always a statement that said, if you want to catch the, fleas from big dogs, you have to play with the big dogs. Yeah. So I'd always put myself in environments, attend annual general meetings, attend corporate functions, golf events where the kind of people that I aspired to be would hang out. So that I got to learn how they talked, to learn how they thought about things, to learn how they, live their lives. And it's actually interesting because while some people get intimidated by these people are also just ordinary people who are very nice and open, and they're willing to interact with like-minded people enthusiastically. I think the problem comes with when people look at them as a well to just come and draw resources from without actually just interacting with them in a way that also inspires and challenges them. And they're prepared to teach you a lot of things without even expecting anything in return. So I really spent a lot of time with these people, and I learned a lot from them. Even when I needed referrals, for certain things, they'll refer me, and they were always helpful. Imagine, a 20-year-old, exchanging emails with the managing director of a bank.
Wow.
That was happening. So yeah, obviously, a lot of young people, they get some success, and they once they taste a bit of success, they want to go and enjoy and live, right? But I think one of the things that I learned was you have to have delayed gratification. You need to know where you're working towards and be constantly building and be working on something over the long term, so that even in times of lack, you keep your head down and keep moving. In times of plenty, you know the context of what you're working towards, and you utilize resources in the context of what your 5, 10, 15, 20-year plan is.
Wow. Sam, so this networking, the golf days, the networking, that's really key. And knowing that who we spend time with is literally who you also become. So how did you get into knowing maybe some of the events, the places to go, or was it just through the business already and maybe the people you're already dealing with?
So it was just about, finding one contact at a time.
Okay.
And then asking them, like for example, one was, I had some shares, so I attended annual general meetings.
Okay.
So that will be an opportunity to meet directors of companies, analysts, investors and shareholders of other companies. We get there, have a conversation with them, exchange business cards, and then start conversations from there. And find the corporate newsletters that are out there, get subscribed on those newsletters, to find out what's happening where. And even some of these golf days, sometimes it was just about having conversations with some executives, finding out what they do, hearing that they play golf on Sundays or Friday. Bankers like to play golf on Fridays, and some people play golf on Sundays sometimes. I remember the day I played golf with the MD of a bank and two of these senior managers. It was actually by accident. But I was just at the right place at the right time. There were 3 players and they didn't have a 4th player, and I was the only player. Wow. And it's not like I had a fancy golf set, because sometimes people may think, I need to have a fancy golf set to be rubbing shoulders with fancy people.
People.
Sometimes, they don't even look at all that. Sometimes some of these accomplished people are the most humblest.
Wow. Sam, the way you're so humble, so grounded, like you explained as well, you've had that discipline, because being young, being young and successful, I think there's a lot of wanting to go out there and just blow it all and make noise about it. But you've been so humble, you've been grounded. What do you think has brought that on your heart?
Yeah, that's a very good question.
Yeah.
So for me, I'll simply say, I think when you're growing up, I've experienced life from both extremes. I know what it's like to not have money. I know what it's like to have lots of money, and whatever comes in between. But if there's one philosophy I've lived by, is that me as a human being, I'm not more important than the person next to me.
Okay.
So if I'm more important than the next person to me, and I do not deserve life more than the person next to me. So therefore, if I'm not more important than anybody, and we're all equal in God's eyes, then who am I to put myself on a pedestal, right? So for me, I've always been the kind of person that interacts. Those that know me will know that I interact with anybody in society, and I treat everybody like a human being because I'm a human being, you know. Today, this person can be in this place, but you never know where they can be tomorrow.
Or they can be
You
somewhere
know,
else. Yeah.
I was one day I was coming from a family from humble beginnings, but tomorrow, you know, I've made some progress and succeed and had a relative amount of success. So, and when I look at what I did to get where I am, it's not rocket science. Any ordinary person could have done what I did if they took the daily steps that I did. They were not impossible things. They were things that any ordinary human being can do. They would have gotten to the same place I am today. So anybody today has the capacity to achieve great things, amazing things, as long as they set their mind on it and take consistent steps towards that direction.
Wow.
So I think that's what has kept me grounded, and that's what has kept me who I am.
Do you think you would have had the same mindset and the same level of success in your life if it wasn't for God by your side?
Of course, God had a big part to play in this. I've got many miracles and testimonies that I could share. Would need to spend a whole day me telling you about some of them. But I think one thing is that, God has been good to me. And even as I made plans when I was young, as I was writing I've written a book. And as I was writing that book, I was reflecting on my life and the success principles and how I could articulate this in the book. And part of it involved me looking at, a book that I wrote my goals when I was 15 years old. When I was 15 years old, I had a 15-year plan of where I wanted to be by the time I was 30 years old.
Wow.
Now, God played a huge part in this, and you'll see that almost in everything I wrote, more than half of the things, God had a part to play in it. And, I committed my plans to God, and God came through for me and showed me and guided me through all the steps that I took. I think God also placed the right people at the right places at the right times. They say that, God, God expects you to do your part, and then he does his part. But there can be no doing his part without you doing your part on the service.
Definitely. Wow. It's so amazing how God has given us a life of success. Like you're saying, it's a matter of just walking into it. The things you did, it was nothing out of this world. It was just grace and you knowing who you are. I think that's the most important thing that some people miss. When you don't know who you are, when there's no that confidence, when things are not clear. I mean, we all strive to be successful, but sometimes the image is not clear and you just live however. So, it's so inspiring that with what you said, you were clear, you were confident. Like I said, I also give lots of credit to your parents because I think they played a big part on even your mindset, on drilling into you that you can be whatever you want to be. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. It doesn't matter what you're facing, but you can be literally whatever or whoever you want to be and achieve it.
And you can make the best of any situation life presents you with.
Wow. That's so inspiring, Sam. So what advice would you give to someone young and wants to get into business?
What I would say is that I think the most important thing is asking yourself, who am I and what do I live for? Crudely put, when you die, what do you want to be remembered for? Right? And then I think it first starts off by having a personal assessment where you look at your strengths and your weaknesses, and then you define your vision in life. To say, after all has been said and done, this is where I want to be. And then when you define your vision in life, you then start, developing your goals around the vision that you want to get to. I must say that, when someone is doing this process, it might not be very clear, how you're going to do it. But as long as you have faith, in the Bible, Jesus said, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you will tell this mountain to move and it will move. Now, when we look at it, when we're looking at the principle of faith as a mustard seed, moving mountains. I think Jesus was just trying to illustrate that seemingly impossible things can become possible as long as you have faith, and that faith is backed by action. If I look at myself, that 15-year plan I wrote when I was 15, if you saw it, if you saw the plan, and then they said, let's introduce you to the person that has written this plan and the circumstances under which they live in. Like, you could have easily said, this guy is dreaming and he's hallucinating.
Yeah.
Right? But believe it or not, when I was in this process of writing my book, at the time I was 30, turning 30, I looked at this 15-year plan I wrote 15 years ago. And believe you me, I'd achieved 80% of the things that I'd set for myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
There were impossible things at that time. There were mountains. There would have been mountains at that time.
Definitely. You
But
were
those
only
mountains
15.
moved.
Yeah.
Those mountains moved.
Wow.
And so what I would encourage every person is, whenever you're making goals and plans and setting your vision, think about even what you think is impossible. There's nothing impossible. It's only impossible in your head. So aim big and aim high. The amount of effort it takes to aim low is the same amount of effort it takes to aim high. The person running a tuck shop in Chitungwiza spends the same amount of energy as the manager of a bon marché at Sam Levis Village. They start the day and finish the day, and they've all worked very hard.
Yeah.
But the impact that one makes versus the impact the other makes, very different.
Very different.
Yeah, so I always feel that if you are going to spend your energy and effort and time, you may as well spend it on doing something big, thinking big, and having big aspirations.
Wow. Wow. Wow, Sam. I'm really inspired. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm definitely inspired. I've learned a lot from your journey. Definitely, I think the obstacle to your own success is your own mind.
Absolutely.
That's the biggest thing I've taken, and that's really key. That, it's not about the resources. Everything can fall into place just as long as your mind is there. So, wow, congratulations on your success. How old are you now, Sam?
I turned 32 just, I think, 3 weeks ago.
Wow, wow.
I turned 32 3 weeks
Wow,
ago.
congratulations
Thank
on
you
your
very much.
success and everything that God is doing in your life. And you're definitely an inspiration to this generation, and carry on doing what you're doing. And thank you for for being on the show, and God bless you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And just as you've been inspired, I hope the viewers will be inspired.
Definitely.
And I hope one day, many years from now, someone will stand up and say, I watched that show.
Yeah.
And it was the spark that started me on my journey.
Definitely.
Because I believe all of us have inside us the seeds of success. And we're just waiting for that spark that ignites us to get us on our journey.
Definitely. Well, thank you, Sam. So we have learned a lot on today's show on just being a success, what you need to do, the mentality and the mindset that you need. And like Sam stated, definitely without God, this will be very difficult. So God is the one who gives you the drive. God is the one who gives us the mindset. And we know that from his word, he has given us a hope and a future. So if you haven't already given your life to Christ, you can do so today. You can repeat this prayer after me and say, "Oh Lord God, I believe in my heart in Jesus Christ, Son of the living God. I believe that he died for me and he's alive today. I confess with my mouth that Jesus Christ is the Lord of my life, and I receive eternal life. Thank you, Lord, for saving my soul. Amen." Congratulations if you have given your life to Christ. And that is it on the show today. Thank you.